Now, in the issue of the New Jersey governor's race, the president on Air Force One mentioned if you vote for the Democrats, your electricity prices are going to go through the roof. He's right about that. They're already going through the roof. The solution from Mikey Sherrill is completely illegal and unworkable. And the solution from Jack Ciattarelli is to cut your electricity rates. How do we do that? Well, let's talk to our buddy Steve Milloy. He's founder of junkscience.com, and he joins us now on Talk Radio 1210 WPHT. Steve, how are you, man? Thanks for making time for us today.
I'm doing great, Rich. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, definitely. You're following these races in Virginia and New Jersey. The president mentioned that if the Democrats win, your electricity prices are going to go up even more. He's right about that. Let's talk about New Jersey first and foremost. We know that Phil Murphy years ago rolled out an energy master plan, as he called it. And it was basically phasing out gas, phasing out electricity, fossil fuels, turning everything over to so-called green energy. Am I right about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Wind, solar, batteries, and all that stuff is really expensive and a lot more expensive than conventional power production like fossil fuels, coal, oil, or not oil, but gas and nuclear. And, unfortunately, electricity prices are going to continue to go up in the near future because there's still $500 billion worth of green new scam subsidies in the pipeline. And, New Jersey's got these, has been threatened with offshore wind. If you get another Democrat in there, unless President Trump kills the projects, you're going to see more offshore wind, which is just about the most expensive kind of electricity you can get. And then you have, this Democrat push to electrify everything, between the electric cars and heat pumps. We are just dumping all this demand on the grid and at the same time weakening the grid with wind and solar and batteries. And it just makes electricity much more expensive than it needs to be.
And then what happens to them after their lifespan's over with the solar panels, with the batteries, with the wind turbine blades? What happens then?
Well, the turbine blades are not recyclable, so you just have to dig like really, big graves for them. Solar panels, they're not really recyclable yet. I mean, this is really the first generation of solar panels. And just to give you an idea how, not only is it U.S. taxpayer subsidies that are required for these solar panels, but, more than 90% of them come from communist China, and they're made with the slave labor subsidy. All the Chinese solar panels are made with Uyghur slave labor. And so, so you've got slave labor, then you've got U.S. taxpayer subsidies, and that's how heavily subsidized this junk is.
Yeah, I know, I agree. It's subsidized. It doesn't work. So let's talk about Mikey Sherrill's idea where she would freeze energy rates. Okay, she would just or freeze electricity rates. Number one, assuming she could do it, and she can't, then you're freezing them at these very, very high levels. So I think politically that's stupid. But B, even the governor acknowledged you can't do that because if he could, he would, right? I mean, politically, it would be very popular for him if he could.
Yeah, look, price controls don't work. We live in a dynamic world. We live in a market-driven world. And we have, for the last 15 years, the Greens have kind of been able to get away with junking up our grid with wind and solar because electricity demand wasn't increasing. But now with the advent of AI and also the reindustrialization of America that President Trump hopes to bring, electricity demand is going up. And, we're stuck with all this wind and solar, which is not responsive. We've got all these, data centers, local governments have set them up to be prioritized over residential consumers. And all this is just making electricity more expensive and less available.
When you say less available, people might hear that, Steve Milloy, and say, what does that mean, less available? How could there be less electricity?
What that means is that when it's really hot or it's really cold or there's some other reason for a lot of demand, residential customers are going to be deprioritized because the data centers need the energy.
But you
and
just
so
make
you're
more.
You're going to see rolling where you can't dial up wind. You can't dial up solar. You can only dial up natural gas, coal, and nuclear.
You're saying you can't make more wind or sun power? I don't.
No, you have to build more wind. Yeah.
We could give people beans like in the scene from Blazing Saddles, and maybe we can make some more wind that way. Have you thought about it from that perspective, Steve?
Yeah, the whole thing is just it's been this foreseeable train wreck. And now, now we're starting to see it. The utilities, they were happy to do wind and solar because they make money, but with new equipment, right? You just get to charge ratepayers for it. And they did not foresee the AI revolution and all the data center needs. Yeah. And it's catching up. And who's paying the price now? Is it the utilities and the utility commissions and utility managements and all the regulators who should have seen this? No, it's regular ratepayers.
Steve Milloy is with me, founder of Junk Science, junkscience.com. He is a senior energy and, excuse me, let me say that again. He is senior energy and environmental legal institute fellow and former Trump EPA transition team member. The other fact here with all of this that I think people forget with these massive data centers and the power that they need and the power that they have, or the power needs that they have, is that as we decide to welcome nuclear power back into the fold, which is a wonderful thing, and I'm glad that psychologically we're accepting it, and it's great that these big tech companies are buying all these data centers and then needing to put things like 3 Mile Island back online, but it takes time to get these things going. 5 years, 6 years, it takes an enormous amount of capital to get these things going. All these things, but you could today get more natural gas very, very quickly. You could today reopen closed coal-fired plants. Like, you could do these things, and in the time that you're ramping up nuclear power, which could take 5 or 6 years, you could still be finding ways to bring in more energy. I mean, am I wrong on that fact?
No, you're absolutely right. The fastest thing you could do is with the gas plants, because gas plants, basically you just need to get a jet engine and locate it near a gas pipeline and a utility transmission line, and you're in business.
That's simple. That easy. It's all you need is a jet engine. Love it.
Yeah.
I got a guy. I can get you a jet engine by 7 o'clock tonight. I got a guy.
Well, I worked in the coal industry, and my boss was fond of saying that. But the Obama and Biden administrations were very clever. As they closed these coal plants down, they had them raised. So, coal is going to have a harder time coming back. It's going to take a long time to build nuclear just because everyone's scared of it. So that puts, natural gas really in the driver's seat. And fortunately, they're probably the quickest plants to put up.
What about the natural gas export facilities? I mean, these things, in my opinion, are a game changer for the United States, for the world, really. We could be selling our natural gas and exporting it across the world. How soon does that take to get these export facilities up and running?
Well, these things are being built now. Once again,
Good.
It's going to take a little time because Joe Biden slow-walked it. Mm-hmm. But, what we should be doing is we should be, burning coal and doing nuclear at home for domestic energy uses, and then taking all the natural gas we produce and sell it to Europe and Japan and the rest of the world, where they'll pay 6 times more for it than a U.S. utility. That's what I think the MAGA energy plan should be.
I like that plan. I also think then that plan weakens people like Vladimir Putin.
Yeah, absolutely. Today, Europe, I read that Europe is thinking of buying gas from Putin until 2028. They should be buying U.S. 2028. They should be buying all the U.S. LNG they can today. They shouldn't be buying anything from Putin, but they still are because it's a little bit cheaper.
I just, it's amazing to me that this guy who I love what Dr. Victoria Coates said when she refers to Russia as it is a gas station with nuclear weapons.
Yeah.
And yet China's still finding a way to buy his oil. I mean, even though there's embargoes on it, China's still helping Iran too. I mean, we have to be cognizant. And China's still burning coal. People should also know that.
Yeah. So China really doesn't have much in the way of petroleum resources and natural gas. So they have to buy what they need from Russia and from the Middle East. And that's why they burn so much coal, because they have to try to electrify everything. It's why, they do use solar panels over there, because they need they need a lot of electricity pretty quickly. And they're trying to electrify their cars because they don't want to, they know they're going to have a problem with us eventually. They know that they're not going to be able to get oil and gas, so they've got to electrify.
They also have a population problem. They have a major population problem in China. China's got a lot of problems. I don't think people realize that. China has a lot of problems. But in the meantime, they are burning coal that I'm told is dirtier than our coal, Steve Milloy. Is that true?
Well, it's only dirtier in the way they burn it. They have the same sort of air scrubbers that our coal plants do. They just don't use them because it costs even more to run those things. In the United States, a modern coal plant is pretty clean. You put the scrubbers on there; they're really clean. And China, but they cost extra to run. And so in the United States, we can afford it. In China, they can't.
Well, I guess as people buy all that crap made on Amazon.com, it's important for them to remember that a lot of that stuff is made. They're trying to get it to you as cheaply as possible, and they don't really care about the consequences. Look, I'm not really worried about things like carbon footprint. I think a lot of that stuff is nonsense and BS. But if we are going to worry about that, if that is a thing, and certainly something that Democrats are worried about, they should be happy about President Trump's tariffs, because you're going to be moving away from production that's made in a country that doesn't give a damn about the environment, right?
Not at all. They don't care in the slightest. They don't care about human rights. They don't care about the environment. Yet we have turned over much of our economy to them. We've made ourselves dependent on communist China. I think President Trump has a plan for decoupling us. It's going to take time. We've got to do it before we get to a critical point where, China just absolutely has us over a barrel, if they don't already, really.
Steve, as people head into the polls on this election day and they think about some of these energy policies, we've talked about Jersey. Tell me about Abigail Spanberger. What is she like on the issue of energy?
Well, she's your standard Democrat. She's all for green energy, wind, solar, batteries. Right now, Dominion Energy, which is Virginia's largest utility, is in the process of building the largest offshore wind farm in the country.
Really?
And I'm
I just don't understand. These things kill whales and dolphins. Like, why do we stop caring about whales and dolphins?
Well, that's a good question. 50 years ago, Greenpeace started Save the Whales, and now it's Kill the Whales. I don't really understand it myself, but I have come to peace with the notion that everything green is fraud, and if it's not fraud, it's disaster. So.
Yeah. I can't imagine 20 years from now all these batteries sitting in a landfill because they don't know what the hell to do with these things. The car batteries. I mean, right?
Yeah, no. Well, the good news is that if you're talking about like the utility scale batteries, those things are really too expensive for people. So I don't think there's going to be many of them. And maybe we'll just all bury them in California, which will just have a huge Superfund site, with all the solar panels and batteries and crap they have.
Well, I was thinking about this because do you remember the Atari video game E.T.? It was for the Atari 2600. It was considered to be the worst video game ever made. And it was buried in a landfill in New Mexico. And that was always the old wives' tale, that Atari buried hundreds of thousands of copies. And then in 2016, they found them all. And I kept thinking about that, thinking, like, what's it going to be like in the future when somebody goes and digs a hole and finds all these like Tesla batteries? Because what the hell do you do with these things? And when they're done?
We could put them in the Grand Canyon, all the wind turbine blades, solar panels, and
lovely,
lovely,
beautiful. Like it'll like that scene of Vacation when they're just looking at it and they're like, all right, let's go. You have even less time to look at it. You'll need even less of a time to appreciate the view. Steve, always a pleasure, my friend. Keep us engaged, and follow Steve on X at Junk Science and check out junkscience.com. Appreciate it, my man. Have a great day.
Thank you.